Alright, it's 2:44. 2:44 in the AM. For those of you that know me, my bad. I was off my game. I didn't know what was going on. For those of you who don't know me, check this out. If you wish to be a part of something big, if you wish to change the future for your children and their children and your little nieces and nephews and all of the other people you love in your family, you're gonna want to stick with this till the end. December 3rd, 2020. Today. This is when the court is going to hear an argument in the Jeffrey Epstein about the victims' rights. They're going to hear an argument over the Crime Victims' Rights Act, CVRA, of Title 18, subsection 3771. And they're going to hear that today. So if you're one of these people who believe that the government is there for you and they're there to listen to you and hear what you wish for them to do, call your representative. Call your news agency. Tell them that you're interested in this. Tell them that you want to know what happened at the hearing. You'd like for it to be publicized. Okay? You would like for it to be public. And I'm going to tell you why. Because they tried hiding stuff the entire time. I just found this out a couple of hours ago. I just found out that the Department of Official Review or something, the Office of Professional Conduct. Okay, my bad. It is not the Office of Professional Conduct. It is the Office of Professional Responsibility. They just relieved Alex Acosta of any misconduct. Okay, so they find that his actions were just a byproduct of poor decisions. And we're going to go over here because I actually have some takeouts of the document that they published, and I'll show it to you. Okay? But everybody knows what happened with Alex Acosta and Jeff Epstein. Everybody knows the story, so I'm going to skip over the parts of the story that everybody already knows. I'm just bringing to you the parts of the story that we just found out. I just found out tonight, literally, and I keep up with this stuff pretty good. Here's where we start. In May 2007, Assistant United States Attorney submitted to her supervisor, Alexander Acosta, a draft 60-count indictment outlining charges against Epstein. 60-count indictment. That means that they had 60 different charges on a federal level that this Assistant United States Attorney felt confident enough to present to her boss, like, hey, we can go get him with the grand jury. Look, right here. I did all the information. I've gathered all the FBI reports. I got all the intelligence. Let's go to a grand jury. 60 times. Continuing on. At a July 31st meeting with Epstein's attorneys, the USAO, which is the United States Attorney's Office, which is really Alexander Acosta, offered to end its investigation if Epstein pled guilty to state charges, agreed to serve a minimum of 2 years incarceration, not 1, 2, register as a sex offender, and agree to a mechanism through which victims could obtain monetary damages. Well, that's a good part. At least the victims get some money, which culminated in the signing of an NPA, a non-prosecutorial agreement, NPA, on September 24th of 2007. So they started talking about this on July 31st, and by September 24th, the deal was done. It was signed, sealed, about to be delivered to everybody's shock. The victims, this is important right here, the victims were not informed at all that this non-prosecutorial agreement was about to be signed. Have no clue. They weren't even informed when it was signed, that it was signed. As soon as it was signed, as soon as Epstein signed this, he didn't plead guilty. He didn't get incarcerated, okay? But for the next 9 months, Epstein deployed his extensive team of prominent attorneys to try to challenge the terms that his team had negotiated, he had approved. So for the next 9 months, Epstein has his attorney team challenging the agreement that they already agreed upon and that the federal prosecutors already signed, that they would not prosecute him. A non-prosecutorial agreement, and he's already backing out of his responsibilities. The legal team was simultaneously seeking to invalidate the entire MPA by persuading senior department officials that there was no real federal interest at issue and the matter should be left to the discretion of state law enforcement, because they could have just gotten it all thrown out in the state law enforcement. That's why the parents went to the feds to begin with. After reviewing submissions by the defense and the United States Attorney's Office on June 23rd, 2008, the Office of the Deputy Attorney General informed defense counsel that they wouldn't intervene in the matter. So they went to the top dog. They said, hey, buddy, up there, the Office Deputy of the Attorney General, will you get them to do this for us? Because we can't talk them into it. Could you talk them into it? And the Office of the Deputy Attorney General said, no, we're not going to intervene on this one. We're not going to bite the bullet if it comes down to it. What happened after that? So on June 30th, he appeared in a state court and pled guilty to the state pending indictment and charges. So he pled guilty to what Florida had already said that he did, and he avoided the whole 60 counts. On July 7th, 2008, a victim identified as Jane Doe filed in a federal district court, Southern District, a petition that the government violated her Crime Victims' Rights Act. Well, violated their Crime Victims' Rights Act, because it wasn't her act. She didn't act it. She didn't do anything with it. But she filed a petition with the government saying that they violated their own act. Go imagine. And another thing to keep in mind, she filed this on July 7th. He pled guilty on June 30th. Okay, so within about 1 week, this victim was on top of it. They were watching what was going on the entire process because they jumped on it immediately. After that, Epstein worked out a work release program. We all know this, okay? So he wasn't even there half the time he was supposed to be there. And remember, he was supposed to go for 2 years, and they only sentenced him for 1.5 years. If you could call it that after all the time he wasn't there. In the mid-2010s, during the CVRA litigation, and that stands for Crime Victims' Rights Act, CVRA. Okay, so during the 2010 middle of the litigation, the petitioner sought discovery from the United States Attorney's Office, which made substantial document production, filed lengthy privilege logs in support of its withholding of documents, and submitted declarations from the AUSA, Assistant United States Attorney, and the FBI case agents who conducted the federal investigation. The USAO opposed efforts to unseal various records, as did Epstein, who was permitted to intervene in the litigation with respect to certain issues. Okay, so right here, during the middle of their litigation to uphold their victims' rights, they're saying, hey, we got to get to the documents the state's attorney's office has, that the United States Attorney's Office has. We got to get to the people who did the investigation. We got to get to the documents they had. And everybody was like, whoa, we're going to keep that sealed. We're going to keep that sealed. Well, the thing is that there's already litigation that it's incredibly pertinent to. So the court ends up unsealing it when all the other parties, except for the victim, wish to keep it sealed. And the next thing to happen during the 2010 litigation is that both parties have motions for summary judgment. They both are like, okay, we're not going to argue over the facts. The facts are established. Here's my motion for summary judgment. And the petitioner's like, here's my motion for summary judgment. Let's see what the court does. On February 21st of 2019, so almost a decade later, the district court granted the CVRA case petitioner's motion for partial summary judgment, ruling that the government violated the Crime Victims' Rights Act in failing to advise the victims about their intention to enter into the non-prosecutorial agreement. The court found that letters from government sent to victims after the NPA, the non-prosecutorial agreement, was signed, describing the investigation as ongoing, misled the victims to believe that federal prosecution was still a possibility. The court also highlighted the inequality of the United States Attorney's Office failure to communicate with the victims while at the same time engaging in lengthy negotiations. Okay, so they weren't communicating with the victims, but they were negotiating with Epstein and his attorneys that whole time, that after they signed the NDA, when Epstein didn't want to keep to his side of the bargain and go in and plead guilty. They weren't communicating with the victims that whole time. On July 2nd, 2019, grand jury indictment charges came against him. Epstein was eventually arrested on July 6th of 2019. On July 10th, Acosta held a televised press conference defending his actions in Epstein's prosecution. Of course, we all know that Epstein committed suicide, and on August 27, 2019, the district court held a hearing at which more than 12 of Epstein's victims, including victims of the conduct in Florida that was addressed through the NPA, spoke out about Epstein's criminal impacts on their lives. The court dismissed the Epstein indictments 2 days later. So they said, all right, victims, come on in. We're going to give you your day in court. And then we're going to throw out the indictments. You won't even ever be officially convicted on what you're talking to us about.
It was both empowering and infuriating to know that the person who I needed to hear those words is not here to hear them.
I was recruited at a very young age from Mar-a-Lago and entrapped in a world that I didn't understand, and I've been fighting that very world to this day.
After Epstein's death, the federal courts in Florida overseeing the CVRA litigation denied the petitioner their requested remedies and closed the case as moot. Among its findings, the court concluded that although the government had violated the CVRA, the government had asserted legitimate and legally supportable positions throughout this litigation, and therefore it had not litigated in bad faith. The court also noted it expected the government to honor its representation that it will provide training to its employees about the CVRA and the proper treatment of crime victims. Okay, let me just explain in, real simple terms what they just did here. Okay, they closed the case because they said now that Epstein's dead, this is a moot case. Okay, so we're not going to go over this anymore. And at the same time, they found that the United States Attorney's Office was absolutely liable, that they absolutely did wrong by not following the CVRA, whatever that thing is. They didn't follow it, and they were liable. It was wrong. And then what do? They tell them that they have to provide CVRA training and how to properly treat victims of crimes to future employees. I'm sorry, but if they didn't know that then, what were they doing that job for? If they didn't know what to do for their job, if they're that incompetent, why do they have that job in the first place? That's a lot like the Bar Association telling Greg Newman that as part of his suspension, as part of his suspended, stayed suspension, he has to follow the law. Because he didn't have to follow the law before. Just like they didn't have to follow the law before. Just like the court found they did not have to follow the law. But you better not do it again. Oh, you better not do it again. This is ridiculous. And the fact that the public buys it is absurd.
Also reminds me, I did need to add one thing. Under the standard conditions, we typically add in that, of course, the defendant is not to violate any laws of the state of North Carolina. And we would like to modify, if we can, to say including but not limited to the Victims' Rights Act, GS 15A-832.
Since all that happened, now they're going to take it to the appellate court because they don't think, like, the victims do not see this as a new case. So they're going to take it to the appellate court. Okay, and here's what the appellate court says, and this is why it's so important for everybody watching to do something about this today. Okay? The government argued that as a matter of law, the legal obligation under the CVRA do not attach prior to the government charging a case, and thus the CVRA was not triggered in the Southern District of Florida's case with Jeff Epstein, because no criminal charges were brought. Nevertheless, during oral arguments, the government conceded that the United States Attorney's Office had not been fully transparent. Yeah, we weren't fully transparent when we didn't talk to you and we were talking to the defense counsel the entire time about how to screw you out of your day in court. We weren't completely transparent about that. Not at the time. With the petitioner, and had made a mistake in causing her to believe that the case was ongoing when in fact the NPA had been signed. That was a mistake we made. I mean, we knew what we were supposed to do, but it was totally a mistake to not let her know we weren't going to prosecute this case. And in fact, we were just going to let them walk with what the Miami Herald later would call a sweetheart deal. Sorry about that, petitioner. On April 14, 2020, a divided panel of the Court of Appeals denied the petition, ruling that the CVRA rights do not attach until a defendant has been criminally charged. On August 7th of 2020, the court granted the petition for rehearing and vacated the panel's opinion. As of the date of this report, a briefing scheduled has been issued and oral argument is set for December 3rd of 2020. Let me just break down what that just said right there. On April 14th of this year, there was a panel that said, yeah, we're going to throw this out. We agree with the government. They never indicted Jeffrey Epstein from the beginning, so he never had a federal criminal charge. So the federal office didn't have any duty or obligation to you. But the state office sure did. And if you want to learn more about that, I'll link a video right up here, because they did the exact same thing to VO. And Greg Newman, who walked on VO's case, letting a child rapist walk on that case, he had a hearing before the bar the same day that they came out with this report. That they came out with the report, the federal report about Alex Acosta's performance and how it was just a mistake. It was bad judgment, poor judgment. Oh my God, Alex Acosta, why'd you have such poor judgment? Oh, it's not like you did anything criminal. Call your representatives. If you believe in America, call your representatives. If you believe they represent you and your issues, call them. Say that you're interested in this case. Let them know. Call your local news reporters. Tell them you're interested in this case. Say, hey, I saw this video on YouTube where this guy explained what happened to Jeffrey Epstein to me. Could you guys cover this court hearing they're having today? Call everybody. Call them. Alright, for all you people who are really dedicated and you stayed till the end of the video, here's what's up. So I was looking for some Alex Acosta prosecutions. Must have been a Floridian slip. Anyways, I was looking for some Alex Acosta prosecutions down in South Florida, you know, when he was the United States attorney down there. the full representative. Next stop is the Attorney General. And I found a couple of cases really interesting. He prosecuted 6 people for, basically for corruption. 6 government officials. Gene, Broward Sheriff, a former state senator, resigned. He pleaded guilty and went to prison for mail fraud, conspiracy, and income tax evasion. Masila Loti pleaded guilty in 2007 for using his public office for private gain. Newell pleaded guilty in 2007, tax evasion and corruption. McCarty committed honest service fraud. And then you have 2 West Palm Beach City officials, commissioners. One is Ray. He took bribes. The other's Jim, and he filed false tax returns. 4 public officials, 3 of whom I determined were Democrat doing a Google search. 2 of whom I determined were Republican. 1 I still don't know. But there was this man, Robert Gershman, and he's an attorney who was running for some type of office. He wished for people to see beyond lines, beyond red and blue. And I would have to agree with him. Because it's red people and blue people. They all do it together. Just think about Epstein. He was with this guy and this guy. But that wasn't even my favorite case. That wasn't the case. I just had that case to show it's not a conspiracy theory. It's a business practice. This is just the way these people do business. And they all do it. And when somebody gets caught, that's it's not out of the norm. It's just the one time they got caught. Who knows how many times they've actually done things like that. Nope. Here is my favorite case. You have 4 people, 2 of which were from the Broward Sheriff's Office. One was a 14-year veteran. The other had just been working there a couple of years. Anyways, those 2 police officers with 2 of their buddies, they didn't even transport real cocaine. They got charged because the FBI set them up in a sting and had them believe that they were transporting cocaine. Had them believe that they were committing criminal activity. To me, it sounds like entrapment. For sure, straight up. They weren't even transporting real cocaine or real drugs or real finances. It's a made-up crime. One of them got 10 years, and I believe the rest got 7 or less. 10 years. 7, 8. Jeffrey Epstein walked. He did 12 hours a day for about a year. He walked. They had 60 counts of indictments on him. 60. They just never actually put it into court. Not a conspiracy theory. It's a business practice. But you want to talk about conspiracy theories? I am just conspiracy, and I just wish to conspire with other good people of this planet to leave a better world for future generations than the world we all grew up in. Oh, and coincidentally, that guy who wasn't on any party lines, he said that people should use a grand jury and start going after public officials as well. Peace.
I've had the story for 3 years. I've had this interview with Virginia Roberts. We would not put it on the air. First of all, I was told, who's Jeffrey Epstein? No one knows who that is. This is a stupid story. Then the palace found out that we had her whole allegations about Prince Andrew and threatened us a million different ways. We were so afraid we wouldn't be able to interview Kate and Will that also quashed the story. And then Alan Dershowitz was also implicated in it because of the planes. She told me everything. She had pictures. She had everything. She was in hiding for 12 years. We convinced her to come out. We convinced her to talk to us. It was unbelievable what we had. Clinton, we had everything. I tried for 3 years to get it on, to no avail, and now it's all coming out, and it's like these new revelations, and I freaking had all of it. I'm so pissed right now. Like, every day I get more and more pissed because I'm just like, oh my God, what we had was unreal. Other women backing it up. Hey, yep. Brad Edwards, the attorney, 3 years ago, saying there will come a day when we will realize Jeffrey Epstein was the most prolific pedophile this country has ever known. I had it all 3 years ago.